Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Melissa. I'm a marketing specialist here at Encore. And today we have QuickTag with us to talk about end-to-end AP automation for GP. So we've got Mary who's presenting and then Michael who will be demoing later. So hi there, welcome.
Thanks, Melissa. We're excited to be here.
Great. I'll hand it over to you. You can take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Melissa. And thanks, Haley. Both of them will be in the background making sure that we stay connected and all of our systems look right and our screens look right and we're showing the right stuff. So thanks, everybody, for joining. As Melissa mentioned, my name is Mary Miller, and I head up the marketing and channel program here at QuickTag. And I am joined by my colleagues, Michael Sortino and Matt O'Neill. If you want to take a couple seconds and introduce yourself, and then Michael, I understand you had a question you wanted to ask everybody as we kick things off here.
Sure. Go ahead, Matt.
Hello, this is Matt O'Neill. I am the dedicated sales contact that works with Encore and their end users and their new prospects. Great to have you on today.
And my name is Michael Sortino. I am a partner manager here at QuickTag. So I work with Encore to help put things like this on. And my question to start, as Mary was referring to, since it is a new year, we thought, hey, why not share and give you all a chance to share and become familiar with the question section. So type in your response. I know it's a question area, but just so you know where you can type in your questions during the webinar. Tell us, you don't have to share, maybe the most painful or challenging one, but what is a New Year's resolution for you this year? What are you going to try and do different in 2021? Hopefully it's not too late. We're in the third week. Mine was that I'm going to try and spend some time a little bit of time in silence each day, at least 7 minutes, because there's so much noise and distraction. So Mary, if you see me take these off during your part of the presentation.
You can't do it during the webinar, Michael. That's probably not a good plan. Maybe later.
All right, what's yours?
Well, so I'm not a huge resolution person, but I do have kind of a word for the year, and I guess maybe a little bit in line with yours. My word for the year is recovery. Because I think there's just a lot of recovery needed. Obviously some people that have gone through illnesses, whether related to COVID or otherwise, or, maybe just the isolation, and certainly just culturally and socially and family related. And so I just feel like this is the year of recovery. So
That's
I wouldn't
good.
call it a resolution, but that's going to be my focus and goal for the year as well.
I like that. Yeah. Matt?
Well, my New Year's resolution is a very common one. It's been mine for several years, but this year I am taking it very seriously. I am going to walk every morning, and I have several little loops that are about 4 miles each.
Nice.
And I want to walk every single weekday morning that I'm able to, and not miss. So
Great.
I'm doing it.
Awesome.
How's it going
awesome.
so far?
I haven't missed a day.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it starts tomorrow.
No, but every year I do it and I end up lasting a couple of weeks, and this year I've made it almost 3 so far, so I'm going to keep going.
Excellent.
That's great.
And Melissa or Haley, do we have any in the questions that people have shared as well from the audience?
Not so far. I think everyone's being a little bit shy. So
no need to be shy. As you can tell, we're very open and conversational in our discussion. So go ahead and find that questions pane in your GoToWebinar, and feel free to share yours now and throughout this session. And of course, ask your questions of the content and the material that we're going to cover during the course of today's session in that same pane as well. So with that, I'm going to turn off our cameras, and then we're going to focus our attention on the slide content so that we can save some bandwidth and real estate here on the screen, and go up here to the slides so that we can get going with the meat of our discussion today. And as Melissa mentioned, we're going to talk a lot about transforming your AP process to go digital. AP automation is kind of the theme, maybe you've noticed. But we're going to talk a little bit first about why that's so important, share some industry data, some research that supports that. Hopefully you feel like you're not alone in this process, because there are a lot of other companies that are struggling with the same types of challenges. We'll talk a little bit about where QuickTag and Microsoft Dynamics fit with that suite, with the ERP system suite. And then, as Melissa mentioned, Michael's going to demonstrate AP automation for us with QuickTag called KwikPayables for GP. We'll share some use cases and benefits, and then of course we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So that's our agenda for today. So let's dive right in. Why transform? Why go digital? Why are we having this conversation to begin with? Well, right now, as many of you can probably relate, there's, the pressure to close year end, prepare for audit, pull all the documentation together. And oh, by the way, many of us are now working remotely, yet due to COVID or other reasons, because maybe you had a remote workforce, normally as part of your business process. But at audit time, it's often a challenge because we need to come together and provide a lot of documents and processes that are specific to year-end and audit time. So the challenges here, as you can see displayed on the screen, are that we spend too much time. I used to be an AP manager. I worked in GP. I know the feeling of literally looking around in the system for things and then running down the hall and finding the right file cabinet to support that information with the paper documentation, and or offsite, where we've got customers that are in Fargo, North Dakota, or in the far northwest or far northeast, that right now maybe not the ideal time to be looking for things in offsite storage locations that might be a little bit colder and more difficult to get to. Not to mention, as you can see in the industry data, we spend 30 to 40% of our time doing this, looking for documents, both physical and digital. And again, the remote environment sometimes makes that even more challenging. So it's really critical that we can put our fingers on documents when we need to. Secondly, we struggle with visibility. 40% of organizations say that they really struggle with document tracking and visibility into the approvals, specifically when it comes to invoices. We'll talk a little bit more about that and show you how KwikPayables for GP can help address that challenge. And finally, compliance. As I mentioned, we're getting ready for audits, many of us at this point in time, and 90% of companies are challenged by financial close and year-end audits or semi-annual audits, whatever that might be for your organization. So the bottom line here is that these paper-based processes, our reliance on paper, our reliance on the human element and interaction with documents required to run our business, especially in AP and back office operations where we have small teams and lots of paper and lots of responsibility, these processes that rely on paper are broken and they create a lot of stress, and they can be very expensive, not only from a time, but also how that translates to money as well, can be very expensive. So that's kind of in general why we want to think about going digital. Specifically as it relates to accounts payable, what we find in this, and it's supported by industry data, as you can see here, is that what that means is that we're now doing a ton of manual data entry, which also creates very inefficient processes. 74% of companies say that's their number one challenge, as you can see here on the slide. Manual data entry, number one challenge. Manual routing of invoices supports that whole lack of visibility we just talked about. 68% of them say that's a challenge for them as well, which then I think leads to these next three that are sort of symptoms of the top two. There's discrepancies, there's errors, there's exceptions. Some of this is because things are coming in on paper, and then many times it's because things get lost or missing or misplaced or whatever. And if you think about it now, again, because we're all working remotely, that might be even easier because we're waiting for somebody to, go into the office and then forward them to us or scan them to us or whatever. So the restrictions that we had, even when we were all in the office, it was tough. And now that we're all working remotely, it becomes even more of a challenge. So if you look at the bottom line on this slide, we can see that as CFOs really look to, plan for their recovery, to kind of use that word again, nearly a third of them are looking for tech-driven products and services, such as QuickTag, to really come in and help them go digital with this and automate these processes so that they're not as dependent on those paper and manual steps in their environment. And 54% of organizations plan to keep some level of remote work in place. So whether it's a full-time thing like it is right now for many of us, or if it's a hybrid model or whatever, this is kind of a new norm for us. So we need to be prepared to access documents from wherever, see approvals, and have visibility into those processes from anywhere that we might be working. So those are the top 5 challenges specifically related to AP teams. And so the reason that we're all here today, of course, is to see what you can do to address those challenges. Well, that's where QuickTag fits in. QuickTag is a digital document management and AP automation solution that captures your documents digitally as soon as they enter your organization. And ideally, that's when your vendors email them to you directly so that we don't even need to print them at all. We have so many customers who tell us, yeah, we receive them in email and then we go print them. We're like, no, don't do that. So if you can relate to that, we're going to show you how you can get away from that as you go forward. So we capture the documents digitally. That's step one. We integrate very, very tightly, as you'll see in the demonstration, with the Dynamics ERP systems, in this case, Dynamics GP specifically. And then we automate those documents. We automate as much of the process as humanly possible. You might have noticed that we have the word touchless in the title of this discussion today. Touchless end-to-end AP automation, because we want to automate the data extraction, we want to automate the integration with GP, we want to automate the approval routing. So all of those steps are maintained digitally in the same system so that you have that end-to-end visibility. So we capture, we integrate, and we automate. As you can see here, we're going to show you how it works. The way that we do that today, we're going to focus on the far left of this screen with Dynamics GP. But as I mentioned, QuickTag integrates across the Dynamics ERP system suite. So we have document management available in all of the flavors, Business Central, Finance, SL, Nav, and AX, and of course GP, which you'll see today as well. Some of them are available in the cloud as well, and then also KwikPayables, which is our AP automation solution, is available for some of them now and added to the roadmap for others coming soon. So everything you're going to see today is going to be demonstrated with Dynamics GP and our KwikPayables automation solution. So with that, I'm going to change the presenter to be Michael. Hopefully this works. Michael, did you get the little notification there?
Yes, indeed.
Awesome, and he's going to demonstrate KwikPayables for GP for us. Go ahead.
All right. And can you see the task screen?
Yep, we got it. Thanks, Michael.
Wonderful. All right, thank you, Mary. And hopefully most of you could relate to what Mary's mentioning. Hopefully it wasn't too painful going through that. But it's good to face it. And usually automation, if you're not already there, it's tends to be on everyone's mind. And we're going to show you how QuickTag takes care of that for you. And the idea here, and I love the word touchless because it does really, it's really personified here, and you'll see it as we come through. So the idea is get these in as quickly as possible. What you're looking at right now is our web-based interface. Every AP person will have their task screen they come into every morning, and instead of having to shuffle through papers on your desk that have come in, invoices, or go through your email inbox and start checking to see, well, who replied, or did I send this one in or not, or around for approval, it's all here. So you get to see right away what has come in and what needs to be processed. So these have either been scanned in, if they came by paper, or you can have vendors directly email to a dedicated email address we'll set up that goes right into QuickTag, or you can forward them in yourself when they come to AP. So if you notice here, when you click on any of these, the document's visible right there. So we're at heart, and our foundation is document management organization. So always making that document visible to you so you know which one you're working on, and then later on tied to all of this information. That's our big priority there. So if you scroll across here, the nice thing is I haven't, like we mentioned, we haven't really touched this. All I've done is just select it to show you, but there's information that's been gathered already. And all I need to do then is come in here and start processing. So I click on this little pencil, it opens up a tag screen, and it presents a warning here that this document number has already been processed. So a big question on a lot of people's minds is, how do you handle duplicate invoices? This is how we handle it. We'll show you where it is in the system, whether it's QuickTag or GP, and then you can choose how to respond from there. So we're always going to let you know that we are, let's just put new 2021 here on the end of this document number, that we're not going to let you put through a duplicate invoice. All right, so that's first and foremost. And how did you even know what the invoice number was? Well, it's been processed through a service that we call ktIQ. And this is really exciting for us. And I want to move through this part of it first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how it differs from the old way of OCR. But because the point is that you can do this all very quickly now. We're not going to require any type of manual data entry when it comes to grabbing information off of the invoice. So this invoice is not tied to a PO. I'm going to show you both, one that is tied and one that is not. And so what it's done here, QuickPayables has gathered information from the invoice. It's read it like a human has, and it's gone and verified some things in GP. So our GP connection, as Mary mentioned, it's the best out there, and we're really excited that we've been the longest integrated with GP, and we keep making it better and better. So if you're using intercompany, in this case, in this scenario, we're not going to show a company that is utilizing it, but you can turn it on and off and use it just like you do in GP. It's gathered that it's Fabricam is our company ID, our favorite one. It's gone and read Interiors Inc., and it's gone and looked into GP and verified that that is the vendor here, and it's pulled over the vendor ID and populated that for you already here. You can type a description in here. A lot of people use that here, and it's grabbed the document date, document number, the purchases amount. All of this has been read. You can change this document type because we do credit memos as well if you'd like to. And that's all. If you want to do your GL distributions on the first step, you can do that here as well. So really, that's all the data entry that needs to happen. And when I click on GL distributions, if you're utilizing your defaults from GP and the vendor card, then those are there already as well, because we will pull from those. If you're not using them, then you can go ahead and look up and make any changes. You can add, you can search based on keywords here and make any changes, break this up into as many lines as you'd like. You can put a reference here that's carried over if you want more info here in the GLs. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. So now I've added some coding here that maybe I want my approvers to take a look at, right? This is not based on a PO. It hasn't been approved yet, let's say, or it needs to go through this process and allocated. I'm gonna go ahead and select an approver here, but we can, this is one way of doing it. We can set this up as many ways as you'd like. So it can be based on certain parameters as well, and send it along automatically to a string of approvers, 1, 2, as many as you need. Workflow comments, this is helpful so that you don't have to pick up that phone and ask specifically. You can type in your question here, or you can put anything like if this was for a specific event or show or a need that the company had, you can put it here by way of communicating within the workflow. You don't have to email or pick up that phone again. And that's it. So it's simple and easy. I hit submit, and this will go on now to Michael, Department Manager, my alter ego here, to process. And while I'm doing that or loading that in, maybe Matt, you can tell them a little bit about the differences between ktIQ and the old way of doing OCR.
Sure. So not sure if any of you have had exposure to Zonal OCR, which is really the technology that ktIQ is replacing. But Zonal OCR was really only recommended for end users that had a very high volume, because it wasn't necessarily a silver bullet, not as user-friendly, say, as a ktIQ. You had a user interface, and what it would do is look at a zone or an area on each invoice and try to decipher what the characters are. And it would look at each character and assign a confidence to each character. Some it would have confidence in, and some it wouldn't. And you'd have to go in and make some adjustments for those low confident characters. So there was kind of a lot of interaction going on there. So that really made it difficult for end users because they had a lot of work to do, but it also just made it undesirable unless you had a really high volume of invoices, because there was a big price tag on it, and it also was not very easy to install and implement. So it ends up that Zonal OCR was good for some high volume end users, but ktIQ looks at things like a person would and uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to handle all of those interactions that you normally would have had to in the older technology. So there's really no user interface. You just enjoy the service. When an invoice comes in, it puts it in the right work queue, depending on if it has a purchase order, if it has receivings transactions, things like that. It will understand what workflow to put it in. And once it does that, it does the data extraction, communicates with GP, to get some of the things that aren't even on the invoice and processes that through. A much easier, more reliable, more accurate, and less expensive process than really what it's replacing. And that's it.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
All right. So, and as you saw there, that all that information was put through ktIQ, and like Matt said, there is no extra interface that you have to navigate. It's already waiting for you there, all that info. All right, so now I've logged in as Michael, Department Manager. I have the ability to approve invoices in a number of ways here. So as you can see here, I've only got one in my task queue here. This is the one we were working on. You can see the document number is the one we adjusted to new 2021. I can click on it, take a look at the document, or I can come here and open up my email. I don't know if anybody saw that come through, but we got a notice here. And this is a common request, because let's say you have, 20, 30 approvers. Let's say you even have just 5 approvers of invoices, but a common thing is that they don't want to have to learn a new system. And so can we do this by email? Yes, you can. You'll get a notification when you're an approver that the attached invoice has been routed to you for approval and requires your attention. So we include the invoice here. And I'm going to open that up here just to show you. So whether they're working from home, if they're traveling again, which some people are, and or they're at the coffee shop and they need to get something in quickly, this will open up on whatever device they're getting their email in, so they can take a look at the invoice. They can come here and see the information that's been added. They can even come down here and see the GL codes if those have been added already, and the workflow history as well. And this one here says, please check on price. This is what I was talking about. You can communicate within the workflow. They can click on approve or reject. This opens up a return email, and they can type in comments if they'd like for approve, reject, will require comments, and send that right in. It updates the system and moves it on to the next person or part of the process there. So you can do it by email, definitely for sure. And a lot of our customers really appreciate that. If you have, let's say, a ton of these to go through, or if you're someone who simply doesn't like working in their email and you want to just use QuickTag, it's simple and easy as well. So as an approver, as you can see here, I've clicked on it here. I see the document. I can literally just click on these buttons to see the extra information. So there's that workflow history. Now I can see that they wanted me to check on the price. I can email this off to someone if I had a question. I can see the GL codes here. I can actually delegate this to someone else too. If, let's say, this was a purchase that normally comes to me, but then in this case, someone else in the organization needed it. So I can hit OK and type in some comments here and move it on to them. Or if I hit reject, this allows me to put in those workflow comments, because as an AP person, many of you know you don't want to get something back without realizing or knowing what needs to be changed or what's wrong with it. And again, we're all about saving you time. So instead of having to pick up that phone or send an email, it'll be right there tracked within the workflow comments. And clicking on approve, this will send it along here. So you could say prices right and ready to roll. So that's how simple it is to either approve by email or within the system. We do have an extra edit step here that some of our customers like using. We call it the final edit. So this gives AP one more chance. So let's say this goes through multiple people and some comments have been made. They can come in here and check it out. Okay, the price is good, and so it's good to go. Or if someone said, no, you need to change this GL code to this or that, this gives AP one more chance to take a look and make any changes that they need to. All they have to do is click on the edit button, come here, they can go into the GLs, make any changes, or they can go ahead and enter any further comments. Here, say this is okay to pay, go ahead and hit submit, and we're done processing that invoice. Now we can move on to the next one if we'd like. So that's how simple it is to take an invoice that's been put into the system, quickly and move it along. We only showed one approver, but if you have multiple, we can set that up and design that as needed. I'm going to jump over to GP now and show the end of that one before I show one that's tied to a PO. So in GP, we're on 80 different screens here, and we come alive in the additional tab. So right now I'm in the PTE screen. Once I hit on additional, starting at tag all the way down is the quick tag functionality. So we're right there, we're embedded, it's not hard to find, and there's a lot of things you can do with document management, especially not just with AP. That's where tagging comes in, adding supporting documents, viewing documents later on, doing a global search. This is a huge thing for GP users because it simply just does not exist when it comes to finding documents. We've put it in here ourselves, so you can easily find documents based on keywords or other parameters. And then viewing the work queue here. So this is the end of the AP automation process as far as getting it into GP. So if you notice, I didn't have to, again, this whole touchless thing, I didn't have to like manipulate any data or download it from QuickTag and upload it into GP. It's actually waiting for me now in this work queue here. So if I come in, I see that these invoices have been approved. This is the one we were working on. Recognize that from the document number as well as the workflow comments. So the goal here is to just create a batch and or add this to an existing batch so that I can get it paid as quickly as possible. Because once it's here, it's been approved. But let's say I'm just learning the system and I still want to make sure you can still access the document from this screen here. So I right-clicked and chose View Document. Most of the time, you can tell just by the information gathered there, but you can say, okay, that's the one I want to add to a batch. If I wanted to grab, just some of these and create a batch with them, or all of them, I can do that as well and create a batch. But in our case, I don't want to steal anyone else's documents, so I'm going to go ahead and add this to an existing batch. You could type in a new batch there as well, but we like to keep it neat and organized here. So actually, Mary, I have to change that to 2021 now. One of the many things that changed a little bit here. So it's added to the MS Demo 2020 batch. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that in now here, as you normally would. And here it is. So this is how easy it is now to create that PTE in order to post and pay. You don't have to type anything in. Remember, as we mentioned, everything's going to get ported over. So all that data, here's our document number, the date, there's that description memo we typed in, we created a voucher, there's the purchases amounts. When I go to distributions, our GL distributions are there as well. If I want to go ahead and expand and see that comment that I added in there on that first one, there it is, more info. So everything's been brought over, the data, and then the nice thing too, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to see the document that supports this PTE, it will always be associated. So even if you delete it out of your system or your, if it gets deleted out of your email or whatnot, it'll always be available here when you click on View Document. It's stored in QuickTag, but connected and tied to GP here. And so that's it. That's at the end of the process there for AP automation with an invoice related to, not related to a PO. If I wanted to go ahead from here and tag further documents, like a lot of people will add a packing list. I wish I had a ton more time, but this is where you would do that. You can go ahead and put packing list as a comment and browse out for that document or scan it in related to this barcode label there. So there's a lot more you can do with supporting documents as well. To keep things moving today, I'm going to go ahead and show you one that is related now to a purchase order. So I'll come over here back into the QuickTag interface, into my task screen.
And Michael, just to interject there really quickly, I heard you use the comment many times as you were going through that flow of the invoice coming in and the data already extracted. Let's think back about that. 74% of time people say that too much manual data entry and too much time related to those steps in the process. And and you literally did none of that. Had you not been explaining it to us, you'd have been done in about 30 seconds, right? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think we need to kind of keep that in our minds as we look at, just how simple and fast this process can be once we have this type of automation in place. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah,
Look
thanks,
forward to
Marion.
the next one.
You can start the timer now because I won't explain
Yeah,
as much on this one. Ready? So
very
here
good.
we are in the purchase enter match. So over here on the left, these are our different my different bins there, different types of invoices. So as Matt mentioned earlier, ktIQ decided which workflow to put this in. I didn't show you this earlier, but you can change the workflow if for some reason it had misread something there. But in this case, here's a Uline invoice. It is tied to a purchase order. It saw a purchase order there. And so it went ahead and validated that. And now all I do is click on the edit button. It's got all that info. As was mentioned earlier, I will get that duplicate invoice warning. Go ahead and change that. And okay, so it's grabbed the invoice date, the vendor ID, just like you saw before, the total there. But then the unique thing here is that since it saw a PO number, what it did was went back into GP and looked for open POs, tied to that purchase order, so open amounts. So, and then it brought that line in here down below. So here it is, PS or MS 234522, 200 were ordered and 200 were received. So this is a three-way match. So it shows that 200 were received. And now it's saying, okay, how many are we invoicing here? So far 0 have been invoiced. But let's say this, so over here on the right, we see that 200 are being invoiced here. I could change this if this was a different amount. Say they are invoicing us for 250 and we actually have another shipment coming or whatnot. You can change that, or if the price changed and this is a different price, you can go ahead and update those two and then submit it along, send it along for approval since something changed. Or in this case, everything matches here. 200 already have been received, are ready to invoice. I can put a workflow comment if I want to. I don't have to. In this case, since it's all approved, I'm just going to go ahead and hit submit. And I'm done. So what was that, 45 seconds, Mary, maybe? Or
maybe a minute, but yeah.
All right, so yeah, so that's it. So we were able to validate it against the PO. I didn't have to go back into GP and look at it. And since everything matched, I didn't send it off for approval, but I will jump over here into GP and show you where this ends up. So I go to enter match here. Same idea. I come over here to additional and come here to the work queue. And this should be waiting for us now. Yep, there it is. And I'm going to go ahead and add this to our batch. And then go ahead and pull that in. Here. Where's that one here? Let me see here. And this 2020. Select that. Okay, so Uline invoice. There's our unique document number there. It's created this voucher to pay here. So in the purchasing invoice entry screen, there's the totals. So this is ready to roll. And as I showed you earlier, the document is associated now as well. So that's how simple and easy it is. And oh, lo and behold, I can quickly highlight that we have this unique feature as well. So it's not just the invoice now that is tied in here, but since this is a three-way match and there was a purchase order and we did have a receiving as well, all three documents are made available. So this is another unique feature for QuickTag. We try and provide as much information as needed. And as again, what Mary mentioned in the beginning, finding documents related to these transactions while you're working on them, but then also later during audits, it's huge. So you don't have to go chasing around and spending a lot of time tying that story together. We've done that here, all three documents. You can click on each one and view them, and they'll be forever tied to this transaction here. So that is the end of the demo here. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to Mary.
Excellent. I'll bring up the slides and we can continue the conversation there. Awesome. Thanks for that, Michael. And definitely we can see how quick that process can be once we add AP automation into the mix.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about where what you just demonstrated for us is managed, where it lives, how it gets facilitated for people in their environment?
Yeah, definitely. So you have options with QuickTag. If GP's on-prem and you're keeping everything on-prem, that's where we've started and have always been and will continue to be. But we're excited that we do have QuickTag Cloud. It was a huge hit last year, and as Mary mentioned, as more people are moving to remote environments in the cloud, everything you saw today was all cloud hosted. And so you do have that ability as well to go ahead and host QuickTag in the cloud, your document management, AP automation, and this is there's a ton of benefits to that. I mean, I think the top one is that then your IT team is freed up to do what it does best, protecting you all and making sure everything runs smoothly, as opposed to setting up new servers and managing other third-party softwares. We take care of all of that with QuickTag Cloud.
Excellent, thanks, Michael. And for those of you who are considering, moving potentially to one of the other Dynamics flavors down the road, whether it's Business Central or Finance, or if you plan to stay on GP, we offer those services in the cloud as well for the products that we support in those environments. So we know that a lot of people are thinking about the cloud, starting to move that way, and just know that wherever you would decide you're going to wind up, we'll be there to support you when you're ready. So. Michael and Matt, and the other thing that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation was that we'd share some case studies, real world examples and benefits. And before we get to the Q&A part there, and I see that we do have a couple of questions coming in, so please continue to submit those. We'll address those at the end. But maybe first, Michael, you could share the case study with us here.
Yep, no problem, Mary. This is a great one. I mean, we work across all industries. Healthcare is one of our top ones. So this was a healthcare network located, it's headquartered out of the Northeast, and they're a network of providers that serve families with special needs children. And they were growing. They had a lot of organic growth, but then also through acquisitions as well. So they're really taking off. And as some of you can relate, that's when the pain points or the things that you've been living with for the longest time suddenly come into sharp focus, where you're like, oh my gosh, can we continue going on this way as we grow and we add on more offices or more areas of our business. So definitely their challenges were lack of integration between their ERP, billing, HR, and other financial applications. So everything was disjointed, too many Excel spreadsheets. Some of you can relate to that. I mean, some of you and some of us in the past, it was a necessity. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, but we have to keep using Excel. There's no other way. QuickTag is the other way, as you'll see and saw today. But and then limited access to the right information needed to close the books. That was a huge thing. We talked about that during the demo, finding things that they need when you need it. And then too many locations where these documents are stored. So hard to find things. And none of them were connected to their ERP system. So if we move on to the next slide and talk a little more. So they had GP. It was managed by their VAR, and they were connecting to GP via a VPN. So they were disjointed in different locations. They had a little over 20 GP users and one GP company, and they were processing about 2,500 invoices per month. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, we're not that big, or we're much bigger. Just so you know, this is a middle of the road example. So we handle all types of organizations. And the solution that this company put into place, this organization, they did KwikPayables for GP with ktIQ. So, and it was a SaaS solution as well. So they hosted it in the cloud. And so it's very easy to get up and running. They didn't have their IT, didn't have to, add a new server and set up workstations for people. It was very simple and easy to do. The benefits that they saw, there was that they instantly reduced costs. So they've definitely brought down the time it takes to process their invoices, and they don't have to do any of that manual data entry. It's down to almost none except for that coding, as you saw. And now their documents are easy to find, quickly across the board, all unified in QuickTag now and tied to their AP approval process as well, and now being able to look back for audit as well. They did have the payment batch approval workflow included there. I wish we had more time to talk about that, but definitely put that on your list if you do a personal demo with us, because that's a often unsung hero, you know, of keeping this whole thing paperless. We do have a payment batch approval workflow as well, so we can show you that at another time.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned there at the end, documents are easy to find and fast. And you mentioned it while you were in GP doing the demo about how the global search comes to life, even right inside of GP, but across QuickTag. You know, we talked at the beginning about 30 to 40% of our time being spent looking for documents, whereas you can type in any of the, you know, parameters, document data, metadata to search things, of course, in QuickTag or GP. But I think what's really powerful and is kind of, you know, summarized into those two little words, and fast, in that benefit statement from the customer, was that you can do it, you can search in QuickTag or GP using QuickTag for even global content. You can put in a word or a, you know, a string of words, phrase, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll search that entire document, because we are reading all of the documents and all of the content within them as well. So that, you know, I need to find invoice number 1234567 from, you know, 2 years ago that was for glass tables or whatever. You can put in glass tables and we'll find it. So that is a real, I think, differentiator, and something that people really appreciate when they need to find things very quickly. So great example. Thank you.
Yep.
So, you know, some other benefits that we hear from our customers often, and Michael and Matt, feel free to jump in with those that you hear and see with customers on a regular basis as well. But of course, that time savings that we just talked about comes to life. But also we hear that it improves their vendor and their employee relations, because again, I put my AP hat on from the time my time passed as a GP user. You know, you're stressed. You got to get the bills paid. Literally, we're trying to keep the lights on, right? You know, so you got to get bills paid very quickly. You've got to get them into the system. And in the old way, we would literally walk them across the hall, and, you know, after stamping them with the rubber stamp and waiting for someone to put either the GL code or their signature on that, you're creating a much healthier, happier environment, less stressful environment for your employees when it's all digital. You know, you can just look at a workflow history. You know, you can just see, you know, how things are coded. And if the person does have any feedback, it'll come up right in that comments as you displayed. So everything being digital makes your employees happier, less stressed, and your vendors are going to be happier because they're going to get paid faster. Because now when they call you and say, hey, what's the status of invoice 1234567, you can just type that into QuickTag, very quickly find it, and say, oh, that's just waiting for approval with our CFO. Let me see what I can do to rush that along, or whatever the case may be. So in addition to that, we see increased employee productivity. We had one company tell us that they increased their employee productivity by 52% within the first week of implementing this solution. So they were literally measuring what used to take 2.5 hours down to minutes in this case, where they're able to track that. So it's a little bit different for everybody, but they do see, everyone sees significant increases and, you know, better productivity right away. They're not having to look for data and paper. Of course, then we decrease the paper and the processing costs associated with that manual routing, because everything is now automated for edits and approval, et cetera, as we saw in the demonstration. We eliminate the data entry with ktIQ, as well as the routing, automatic routing for approval, with that transaction being automatically created in GP for us, whether it's a payables or a purchasing related transaction. That embedded integration is so key. No more import or export. You don't have to upload anything. Once you submit it, we're going to take care of that handoff for you. Which, of course, all of this gives you that visibility. We talked about at the beginning that 40% of companies struggle with document tracking and the visibility into where things are from an approval standpoint. This takes that away. No more bottlenecks. You can see everything instantly at your fingertips. And if you're looking to take advantage of early pay discounts, same thing. Everything being digital is really going to accelerate that process and enable you to take advantage of those if you so choose. Now, when you're considering an AP automation solution, it's really important to not only, you know, ask about and talk about the features and functions, and certainly the workflow acceleration, everything we've shown you and talked about today. It's also important to consider if you have other systems in your environment, which GP companies that use GP tend to have anywhere between 5 and 12 ISVs. So if you think, gosh, we have a lot, we've got 5 or 6, don't worry, you're not alone. And that's right in line with others in the industry. 5 to 12 different ISVs are commonly in place. Now, some of them might be for, inventory management and, manufacturing and things that are outside of what we're talking about for AP. But if some of them might happen to be, say, binary stream for multi-entity management, or SalesPad for your sales order processing, those sorts of things, or Solver for your reporting, RecLogic for purchasing rec, and of course the Dynamics ERP system. We work with those other solutions. So when Michael created that payable transaction entry with the distributions already part of the transaction, if we also had binary stream in that equation, it would automatically assign the transaction to the correct entities within GP, because it is also binary stream connected, by way of example. So it's really important to consider, does the solution talk to all of the different applications that are relevant to your AP process? And when you're looking for something that that ties it all together, certainly you'll find that with QuickTag and QwikPayables for GP as well. And just a little bit about our background, if you're not familiar with us as a company, we've been around since 1997. So we're, 23, almost 24 years old now. And as Michael mentioned earlier, we were the first to integrate with the Dynamics ERP system. So we have a very long history. We've got a lot of expertise in the company of working with the ERP systems, and we pride ourselves on being able to learn and make that experience better for you, because we're working with them to support you as the end customer. And as a result of this 24 years in business now, we have around 120,000 business users around the globe, and we've helped them automate AP and contract management, and just automate HR files and college applications and, medical records, lots of different types of documents and lots of different types of processes. So this is often where people start, but then QuickTag can be that one system that connects all of your systems and has all of your documents be digital in the same environment as well. As you can see here, we have 9 patents. What's cool about that is when I started with the company about 5 years ago, I think we had 6. So we continue to innovate. We continue to respond to market demands, to customer feedback, and to needs that we learn about from you, our customers and partners, along the way. So when you think of something, don't hesitate to ask us about it, because we want to challenge ourselves to do better and continue to enhance our products based on your needs. And 100% of our support is right here in the US, right here in Tempe, Arizona, where it's starting to be really nice again. So as people are looking for that winter getaway, definitely consider coming down to Arizona for a visit when it's safe to travel again. We'd love to welcome you to the warmth of the desert. In most time, don't come in June or July, but but right now is a great time to visit. So so with that, we do have time for questions, and I see that Haley has told us we have a couple here. And Michael, I'll throw this one to you first. Can the fields be customized in the approval screen?
Okay, that's a good question. As far as I guess I'm wondering which fields they're referring to.
So yeah, I was thinking the same. I thought maybe I'd throw it over to you first, but
yeah, I mean, we do on the approval side, you have flexibility. I know that we showed it one route where the approver is simply saying approve, reject, or they're delegating it to somebody else. There is the other way of doing that is by making that an edit step, so that they actually can edit those fields that you saw me do on the first step. And they would do that in QuickTag. They wouldn't do it by email. So that's definitely another way of doing it, to where they can do the coding themselves. They can, adjust anything else that was needed, put memos and comments in and things like that there in that edit screen. But as far as adding other fields there, we definitely, as Mary said, we're open to any customizations that are feasible, and we're happy to discuss further after this. Set up a time, and we're happy to go through your specific need.
Yep, absolutely. And some of it depends on whether or not that data needs to pass through to GP, or if it's just something that you want to have commented in the workflow history and be accessible in QuickTag. So a lot of times people will add a second level of approval, or a dollar threshold that if it's over $10,000, automatically send it to XYZ manager or CFO or whatever. Those things can all be configured within the workflow. So as Michael mentioned, we're happy to learn more about your specific needs to discuss what that would look like for you. So it looks like the next question is, can multiple invoices be approved at once? And the answer to that is define at once. No, I'm kidding. I say that in jest, but what I mean is when you're logged into KTX in the web interface, as Michael displayed for us during the demonstration, you would see a list. Now, he only had one in his queue, so it was only one row of data. If there were multiple, he would be able to look at each invoice, hit the check mark, and it would go on its merry way, and then et cetera, through the list where he's basically check, 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 check. So it's essentially the same as doing them, you know, in the same view, in the same session, as it were. The reason that we don't give you a little like multi-select checkbox is that because most people that put in automation want their approvers to look at the GL codes or look at the comments or look at something related to that invoice to make an informed decision before they approve one or many of those invoices. So when it comes to the approval, you have the ability to look at it and go through them very quickly simply by clicking the checkbox for approve as well. So it's not a multi-select, but it is a very quick process to, as you look at it, check to approve it. And I will say when you do have them approved, Michael showed us the creation of those payables and purchasing transactions in GP with, you know, one at a time. You can multi-select there, one or many or even all that are in that work queue to put into the respective batch. And the reason they stop in the work queue for that step is so that you can say, you know, maybe these invoices go in this week's batch and maybe those invoices go in next week's batch, so that you can make, again, some informed decisions about where and how you want those invoices to be paid, which batch you want them to go in. So you can multi-select there with any that are approved and waiting to be created at that final step inside a GP. So yeah, absolutely, great questions. Let's see, what happens if the approver's on vacation, has out of office? Perfect. Yep, we have an out of office alert. Michael or Matt, one of you guys want to take that and describe what we do?
Sure, actually I can.
Awesome, yeah.
If you remember in the demo, up on the right-hand corner, you'll see there's a little icon with the end user's initials on there. If you click in there, you can go into preferences and you can set up another person, another QuickTag end user to basically take all of your tasks while you're out of the office. So you just indicate who you want to take the tasks, and then you click it on and a big orange bar will go across the top of your environment. And that orange bar basically says that you are out of the office. So when you return, you won't return and get into the system and start processing things. The first thing you'll see is that big orange bar that says Danny or someone else in the office is now responsible for your tasks. Are you back in the office? And you just would click that off and resume your duties. But it's hard to miss. It's a big orange bar. So the person that designates another person will never not notice that they are still out of the office when they get back upon their return.
Right. And if, by way of example, to extend that, if the person happened to go out on sick leave or something, a QuickTag admin can go in and turn that on for somebody and delegate the tasks accordingly as well. So if you're already gone or you forgot to do it before you leave on vacation, just text your manager. They can go in and set it up for you as well. So yeah, great question. Any other questions? We are coming up to the top of the hour here. And as you can see on our closing Q&A slide here, we do have, you can find us on the web at quicktag.com. You can follow us on Twitter and connect with us on LinkedIn. We post white papers and resources and case studies and videos and all that kind of fun stuff. Oh, we have another question. Let's see, does QuickTag make GP workflow obsolete? Oh, great question. No, it does not. In fact, we have a lot of customers who use GP workflow, particularly, I'll use the example of what we saw demonstrated today with the purchase order related invoice that Michael showed us in the second phase of the demo, where if you're using GP workflow to say, create the PO, get the PO approved, and then have that step of, okay, now it's waiting to be received against an invoice, that is a perfect tag team with QuickTag, because now you didn't have to go source another solution for the requisition process. You can use GP workflow for that PO approval, and then when the invoice comes in, it marries up quite nicely with the receiving transaction, and then you can match it against whether it's a receiving transaction or a three-way match, the way that Michael showed us. Either way, QuikTag can support it in the KwikPayables process. So they actually work hand in hand very well. So, and then I see we have one more question. How long does implementation typically take? Matt, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So the fastest KwikPayables implementation ever for us was 17 days. But that was certainly, there was some business requirements built around that, and we hope to have more time than that on an average project.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a good rule of thumb would be 2 to 3 months generally. If there's really business reasons why we need to accelerate that, there are ways for us to get some of the information to you quickly, have you populate it and get the project rolling more quickly. But I would say generally about 2 to 3 months for a project.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if people choose to start with document management and then add the AP automation, we can literally have document management up and running in a few days. So that's something that you can, or if you go with AP automation and want to have people start using the document management right away, you can do that as well. So there's lots of different considerations as you go through implementation that your project manager will suggest to you and work with you on a kickoff call shortly after you get started. So looks like that about wraps up our questions, and we're coming to the top of the hour here, but any closing thoughts, Michael, Matt, that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I just really appreciate everybody participating today and joining. It was great to see the turnout. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and great questions too. And I would just say the thing that we didn't get a chance to really touch into too much is that you can expand QuikTag to other areas of the organization. So as Mary said, you can get document management going in many other departments, and it's something that can help, not just AP.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody, and definitely stay focused on whatever your goals are for 2021, and hopefully automation and saving your team time and money and energy is part of that process, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with all of you. Thanks to Melissa and the Encore team, Haley for facilitating our questions in the background there, and we really appreciate all of your time. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks, everyone.